I think the big thing with Connor McDavid's media availability is the unfinished business, but also I think it's important for the family reasons. So I think important for the NHL Connor McDavid is very fascinating. There's no question about that. When you look at folks like this, no surprise at all. Connor McDavid was asked about his future in Edmonton, feeling like it was unfinished business. This core has been together for a long time from the building to this moment. That being said, I ultimately still need to do what's best for me and my family, but of course, there's unfinished business here. So to move from that into the other quote, which kind of talks about needing to regroup. I think for me, like, some of it's a little interesting because talk about needing to regroup and talk about when the time comes to make some decisions. His family, there's no rush. So I think some people are going, yikes. Some people are going, okay, well, it's no big deal. He's going to be back in Edmonton. If I had to make my prediction right now, I think he's going to be back in Edmonton. I'm just going to say that. I think he's going to stay an Oiler. But we always have our surprises. I think a lot of people want to reference and compare like the Wayne Gretzky situation, right? Like, of course, that happened. You can't ignore the past. But I do look at it as, okay, Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid are really, really close. Of course, we know that. It's not a secret. I will give you guys this. Like, both Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl's partners are from Ontario, specifically Northern Ontario. And I think when you look at that, you look at where their families kind of reside, you look at Connor McDavid's family, you look at big moments in his life. I believe he proposed and got married in Ontario to Lawrence. So I do consider that in the back of my head. Like, I look at the John Tavares situation, and at the time, I've also just been a lot more looped in with what's going on with John Tavares over his career. I expected him to go to Toronto. Like, a lot of people thought he was going to go back to the island. A lot of people thought he was going to go maybe to the highest bidder, but it was like family for JT. And I think there's like a good level of examples and a good level of history there from where he met the love of his life, where his families spent time, and of course, just prioritizing that. I think when you're looking at Connor McDavid, expecting Connor McDavid to be back and to be there long term. I can tell you this for free. There is no way Leon Draisaitl signs that long-term extension with Edmonton without having confidence that Connor McDavid can stay. For sure. Many conversations. They spend so much time together. Like, their partners as well, the four of them, I'm sure it's been a conversation. I'm sure they don't want to get too much business. They want to keep it light and things are talked about behind closed doors. But at the end of the day, McDavid and Draisaitl would have talked, and McDavid would have given some assurances to be like, I intend to stay in Edmonton. Of course, things can change, right? I'll put it this way. Back-to-back Stanley Cup final losses, I don't think that was on their bingo card. So, of course, things do change, and I understand there's so many layers to a person's life, like professionally and personally. Connor McDavid wants to win a Stanley Cup. The way Connor McDavid envisions, so like the goaltender, the overall roster, the management. If there's certain elements to that change what McDavid had maybe given to Draisaitl in terms of assurances, in terms of confidence of him staying, if those things change, McDavid's mindset and decision as of summer 2026 could change. But as I'm talking about this, as I'm putting this out there on the platform, I think it's got to be Connor McDavid could easily sign an extension. negotiation tactic, or if that's truly, hey, there is no rush here. I'm going to take time to talk to my family, and I'm going to take time to see how the Oilers organization handles this offseason coming out of, as I said, a back-to-back Stanley Cup final loss. So I think that's a huge part of it. But again, I think there is merit to go, okay, Connor McDavid's frustrated with the situation. They lost another Stanley Cup final. It's fresh still. Some time. Let's hear from him in a couple of weeks. And I wouldn't be surprised if McDavid has an extension. So that's where we're at. And I do understand that Connor McDavid's coming home. We can't compare it to the John Tavares situation because there are, I was partner in Ontario. All the families in Ontario. Family. When is Connor McDavid going to start a family? Where does he want to have that family grow up? So a lot of those questions still unanswered, and there's time definitely from now until July 1st when he can sign an extension to make this being a conversation through next season. Because I think a lot of people thought maybe last year that a guy like Mitch Marner, a high-profile player specifically in Toronto, would maybe sign here, and now it's going to be UFA for anyone in the league to sign. So we're going to see what happens with Connor McDavid. I think Oilers fans still feel confident he's going to stay at Oilers. But of course, out of those quotes and lots of time, things could change.
Hey, Connor. We've had a couple of days to process this. I know, obviously, another tough loss. Just can you give us some thoughts on what the run, because a lot of people didn't expect you guys to make the run that you did, and then the final.
Yeah, incredibly disappointing. Obviously. Another fun run to be a part of. It's always fun to see what the city, how the city kind of supports us and gets behind us and brings people together. But obviously extremely disappointing to not get that.
You got 1 year left on your contract. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about that. Can you give us any update or situation, or what do you expect moving forward?
As I said, it's only been a couple days since the season ended. Take some time to regroup, talk to my agent a little bit and family and all that, and make some decisions whenever that time comes. But there's no rush on anything.
Down to best of three. You mentioned after the game you felt like you just kept doing the same things in game 5 and 6. Can you maybe elaborate on what you felt were those things that ultimately cost you in those two games?
Not good enough starts, obviously. Chasing the game, chasing both games, pretty, down 2, down 3. Come back. Same stuff. We struggled breaking the puck out. That's not on D. That's on everybody. We struggled getting up the ice. Couldn't kind of sustain any pressure, and you just get worn down like that. And I thought they played really well. They played great.
I know there's not a lot of solace when you lose. Ultimately, you want to win. Your team's good. You go to back-to-back cups. Don't just fluke your way into back-to-back cups, and be really close in both years. Following up on Derek's comment, obviously, I think you know what you mean to Oilers fans and everybody. And Leon said, obviously, like you're here forever. It's not something you had to talk about, but with the July 1st window opening, when you look at just what you've built here with this team and how close it is, do you feel like there's unfinished business for you?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. This core has been together for a long time, and we've been building to this moment, all along. The work that's gone on behind the scenes, the conversations, the endless, disappointments, and some good times along the way, obviously, as well. We're all in this together, trying to get it over that finish line. With that being said, ultimately, still need to do what's best for me and my family, and that's who have to take care of first. But of course, there's unfinished business here. Yeah.
You mentioned, obviously it's disappointing, but are you able to focus as much on the good times? Because you think about it, there's, the ending's bad, but all the other steps on the journey to get there have been really good. Do you have a balance of that to ensure you don't just focus on the end result?
Tough to focus on the good stuff 2 days out after, that disappointment, obviously. Sure, as time goes on, we'll look back on, another successful kind of run, I guess, making it to the finals, 2 games away. Sure, there'll be a little bit of that, but at the end of the day, I get up here every year and tell you that it's all about winning, and it's only about winning, and we won't be satisfied until that's done.
So, like, theoretically, close the game with you guys that you just, as you point out, you guys never quite figured out. Theoretically, every team could just say, okay, we'll just throw that game in the orders and we're going to beat them. I know it doesn't work that way. Does this team need to change, structurally? Does it need to change a great deal so that the next team that throws that game at you, you know how to handle it?
Well, I think Florida's a special group. They got, I said it after the thing, they got, 8 guys with 20-plus points in the playoffs. Their third line is plus 20, that's unheard of. Their back end's big and fast and long and tough. And they got a world-class goaltender. They're not just throwing any game at you. They're throwing their game that they've practiced and worked at, and obviously have come up with a recipe that is extremely successful. And I think we're doing that in our own way. It may not look like Florida, it may not look like their game, but it's a solid game in its own way. Every team is going to have their own strategy with their personnel. I think we found a winning formula here. Didn't find a way to get 2 more wins, obviously, and that's the end goal. But yeah, I forget what your question was anymore. Sorry, I talked myself into a circle. Sorry. Sorry.
Connor, respecting that you mentioned how much you got some things to think about, obviously, but what are those things? What do you want to kind of drill down on as you make a decision here on a contract extension and the thought of possibly staying here for a while?
Winning would be at the top of the list, and then winning would be it's the most important thing. If I feel that there's a good window to win here over and over again, then signing is no problem. Yeah, again, it's only been a couple of days. Sure, we'll get into it over the course of the next couple of weeks. But again, I'm not in a rush to make any decision, so I don't think that there needs to be any timeline. I know people are going to look at that July 1 day and be looking to see if there's anything done. But for me, I'm just not in a rush that way. So.
I know this might be a weird or stupid question, but is there any way to compare the 2 losses last year versus this year, just in the way you guys felt? Would it feel any differently?
I would say last year was like heartbreak, like you're sad. I'd say this year is more angry, just than heartbreak. It's more frustrating. It's more, I would say that would be the comparison.
Connor, your team has run up against the champion now 4 years in a row. That combined with the 4 nations, did you see different levels of hockey this year than you've seen before? And can it push the team and your own game forward a little bit, seeing those levels?
We don't need to look very far at what it takes to win or what it feels like to play against a winning team. as I said, we've done it 4 years in a row now. Hockey at the Four Nations was the best hockey I've ever been a part of, that level. And a close second would be that Florida team that we just played. So there's certainly levels to everything, and
Connor, you've been here for a while, and now it's 2 Stanley Cup finals in a row that went the wrong ways. What's the balance between frustration and a strengthening of resolve?
well, we come back and we do it again. There's no quit. Guys can take their time and get healthy, and guys will go through their process, whatever that process looks like for each individual person. But ultimately, it's on every person in that room, in that organization, to dust themselves off, come back and be better. I know that's cliche, but it's true. Everyone's got to find a new level. It's not like we have, a ton of cap room and we got a long list of highly touted prospects knocking on the door. It's got to come from within the players that are playing, and everybody's got to find a new level, myself included.
And just sort of following that up, how do you think this team, this organization is positioned, not just for next year, but 3, 4, 5 years down the road? This window open.
I think the team is certainly positioned to be really good again next year. Really, really good again next year. Beyond that, I don't know or care. We're worried about next year, and that's the only focus.
How do you handle the pressure that you have on yourself? A lot of people expect you to help carry the team. You're the captain, the talent that you have, but you have to deal with the psyche of your teammates, but also yourself. How did you deal with that 2 cup runs in a row, having to worry about the others, but also yourself?
Well, I think every team that is successful and goes to the finals, and I don't think you need to really worry about guys. That's certainly the case in our room. There's no one to worry about. Everybody is a strong individual player, person, that can take care of themselves and can perform in big moments. And I think we've showed that time and time again. And so I think this is, I said it kind of in between the West Final and the final, that this is the easiest group I've ever been a part of, and that's true. There's not many guys to worry about in there.
And just with the fans, like your message to them, because a lot of people are watching contract talks. It's a big deal for a lot of fans. And so I know you can't really give any reassurances right now or anything like that, but just, they've been through a ride as well over the last couple of seasons. And so, wanting to see what exactly happens with your future here in Edmonton.
My message to the fans would be to keep being patient and keep believing, because they've been through a lot, obviously, as you said, just like our team has. The emotional highs, the lows, and I look at what these playoff runs do to my family. It's hard on them. It's hard on the fans. It's hard on everybody. But ultimately, when that day comes, it'll all be worth it. These moments up now, and it's tough to look to that. But when that moment comes, it'll be, it'll be worth the wait for sure.
Connor, Nuge was able to play, and he's hurt. Ekholm was able to play, not as well as he could, being hurt. What did you miss most by not having Zach Hyman, who obviously could not play?
Yeah, injuries certainly been a factor. Missing Hyman in a series where, speed and Is that your podcast you're listening to? Injuries, definitely played a factor, I would say. Missing High in a series where, battles and speed and getting up the ice were an issue. Those are Zach's specialty. Missed him a lot. Nuge to be able to gut it out.
Sucks. I don't think we'll make it to finals. First year, it's going to be some coaches fired it. Sellers have to. No, Rod Nelson. Not anymore. No.
Justin Turner enters the game at first base. Wilson County, both these days, one thing Munson. Munson emptied out the bench right now. Let's get the lead second. One man only for Yellows.
Personally, sometimes I can't believe I'm proud of me. I'm not proud of myself. This is the first time that I would say to me,
Oh, and being a normal umpire. He's definitely funny. One, two, three, four. 5 or 6. Or 6 or 7. Let's have one series. Huh. How do you call that? How do you call that a ball? Yes. Oh. Look at that. Dude. Where's that him from?
See you on the dance floor. Every time you speak, I'm hitting.